morning and welcome to The Point. It is Thursday, August 19th, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20. Good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9 and all the folks joining us on Party Grenada and Go to Fet Facebook pages. Always a pleasure to have you. This morning we are looking at the local response to some regional situations. I like it. Local response to regional situations. Joining me virtually this morning is the Public Relations Officer of the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, Oslyn Crosby, and we're going to discuss some of the efforts that NADMA has undertaken and is undertaking in relation to response for some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters up the island chains. Lots have been happening, and NADMA is ready to assist, so we're going to discuss that this morning with Ms. Crosby. Good morning, Ms. Crosby, and welcome to The Point.
Good morning, Blossom, and thank you so much for having me. Good morning to all your viewers and listeners, and I think you coined it well. You coined it well in the introduction there.
A local response, exactly.
Crisis, yeah.
Exactly. So we have a lot to discuss this morning. Let me start with, let me start with the people of Haiti, because while we have a number of our Caribbean brothers and sisters that are going through some dire straits and some situations, I think Haiti is one that really needs that urgent attention. In addition to COVID-19, the deadly earthquake over the weekend, and they were dealing with floodwaters following the passage of what was then a tropical depression, Grace. So what has NADMA been able to do since, not even since just weekend, but over the past few weeks in assistance in relation to lending assistance to our Haitian brothers and sisters?
All right. So, Blossom, again, thank you. The disaster management process in the region, in times like these, we are mandated just by our responsibility to assist. How do we do so is the point here on the review. This time of year, and for the hazard, the initial hazard that has affected them, no control over it, one that we cannot predict, one that just happens, an earthquake. And it takes us back to Haiti. Was it 2001 when they had the massive one, when so many lives were lost? And it's as if this cycle, 2011, mm-hmm. Right, 2011, and it's as if the cycle is back again. We're in 2021. And another earthquake, a 7.2 this time. So far, the death toll continues to rise. On Monday, I know for yesterday, it had climbed to somewhat, at first it was 1,400, now we're up 1,900, so 500 plus yesterday. The injured has gone up to 9,009 something now. The amount of homes and so that have been damaged, the numbers are climbing. It is 40-something thousand, and we're going up. So many people homeless. And Haiti is already a country in crisis normally. Politically, only recently, the president of Haiti was assassinated. We're still living within the pandemic. It's raging. So let us think of this environment. And I'm saying this just to set the pace as to what's really going on in Haiti. So Haiti's need it's huge. Everything is happening. But again, we have to be guided by the structure in which we exist. What is the structure? NADMA is our regional head. When it concerns any hazard or any country that has been thrown into a disaster mode, we are guided by NADMA. So what has happened so far? The earthquake has passed, tropical depression Grace would have dumped water on them just a couple of days after the earthquake. People still looking for, and it is frustrating, the people living in Haiti, because you have people stuck on the rubble, you're hoping that they're still alive, and then the water comes. So it's as if it just pours a lot more on you. And just thinking about our colleagues in the disaster management process out there in Haiti, and I can only imagine what they are going through. It's as if every time you put a plan down for one, then another hazard pops up. How do you deal with all of it? So what has happened so far? What we have done is there are different sub-regional focal points, depending on your positioning. As relates to Haiti, Jamaica is the immediate sub-regional focal point. So what Haiti has requested, and remember, we are guided by the request of Haiti, because you don't want to just go in and bring in things at a time that they will not be able to handle or be able to use adequately, even though we were going to ask you for it. So as is now, as what happens with every disaster and disastrous situations, is that you will conduct an assessment. A thorough assessment is ongoing because the earthquake Saturday, the depression came the next day, you're still dealing with COVID and everything else. So that's an ongoing assessment. What you would do now is ensure then that you have the infrastructure, or rather the mechanism is in place for you to be able to respond. So what NADMA has provided is that of technical support to the disaster management office, the disaster office in Haiti, and that is done through Jamaica. That is the focal point there. Jamaica is a focal point because of their location. For Grenada, it's Trinidad. Yes? So if anything were to happen in Grenada in the south, it's Trinidad that will respond first. The other countries will respond eventually, yes? But the first point of contact and the first country to respond is going to be Trinidad. And we can use that as an example during Ivan. You remember when it was Patrick Manning then, when he landed in Bushaju, came up with a helicopter to ensure that the Prime Minister, yes. So it was his responsibility as part of the that CARICOM, that regional bloc, and how the structure exists. So Jamaica is responding directly to Haiti. What we will be doing, what will happen during that time is you recognize that you have more need for more technical support initially than the actual physical items that people will need. So that's the phase that we are at now. Eventually, as more technical support goes in from the regional level, then we would get to the stage where then the needs list and so would start coming out. So you know who's damaged, you know how much houses are damaged, you know what people need. Some people may not. You know, once houses are damaged, it means that your clothing and food and so are destroyed. You don't have any bedding. So then you have an idea as to what people would actually need. And then we would come to the public to share from that needs list that is shared from NADMA. So the part where we're at now is ensuring that you strengthen that mechanism at the NDO, which is the National Disaster Office. Jamaica is providing support as the need arises. Then the request will be made further into the sub-region, where other countries can then come in, and that is when we will take the mines to go in. And then because remember, if you just get up, something has happened, and you just get up and you just start moving, at the end of the day, we may not reach the people that needs it most. But in addition to that, that external infrastructure is also operational. UNICEF and so have already responded in that of immediate response to the people of Haiti. So we do have some of the international organizations that already have relations with Haiti, already on the ground, because you know that, for example, when the hurricane season started, we heard about that British ship that is just out there in the water to respond to any Caribbean country that may fall into a disaster. So it means, therefore, that existing infrastructure, it is there, and it is activated now because we have gone into that crisis mode. Haiti is under 1 month. In the first instance of they're on the state of emergency for 1 month, keeping in mind all that's happening. So it means that the emergency framework we are now in that mode. So we await further guidance from NADMA. NADMA held a press conference on Monday. In addition to that, as I said, Jamaica is there, UNICEF and the other agencies are there. We wait now for further guidance as to what are some of the other things that they would need, the physical things that we will be able to better support. Because only this morning, someone asked me about this, whether or not we are doing anything for Haiti. Haiti's call will be coming soon. We just await further guidance because we don't work in isolation. We work as a CARICOM block, we work as a CARICOM group, and NADMA is the one that guides that regional response and will guide the regional response for Haiti.
We wait for that. And in the midst of this as well, I know NADMA is spearheading efforts for Cuba, which is not too far from Haiti as well. What's going on with that Cuba situation?
The world seems to be in crisis, and I think it is reflective also here at home. COVID has brought a whole new spin on everything, and it's as if it has brought disaster management to the fore. Everything disaster management related is what's happening now. We exist in a pandemic. I know that in the past we always speak about the multi-hazardous environment in which we're operating now, and those natural hazards are not making it any easier. We have the season that's very charged since July. We got our first storm. That one just kept it's coming. Yesterday, we just out of the blue here comes the gust front, and everything is just popping up. It affected Trinidad yesterday morning, and then it just came up like a balloon, just floating up and just waiting to come up. The good thing, though, we are grateful that it did not affect us severely, but we are always grateful, and we have to be, and that's the reason why we always speak of being prepared. COVID has exacerbated the existing issues or challenges of Cuba. Cuba, over the years, we know that the embargo that is placed on Cuba always is a huge, can take a huge chunk of that responsibility for the state of what's happening there, access, and so being able to be able to get what you need. Unlike here in Grenada, where we have it freely, we do have access to the outside world. That's one. And then COVID came, and as if it is pressing them down. Cuba has given a lot to Grenada. Almost, I'm sure, I'm using figures here, not being able to say for sure that facts, but let's just use a ballpark figure. I think it's safe to say that over 70% of our doctors in Grenada are graduate from Cuba. Even also our technical people, our engineers, and so studied in Cuba. So Cuba has given a lot to us, and not just doctors, our nurses, our doctors, are former graduates of Cuba. And what government has recognized with the challenges that Cuba is facing now, especially in the area of medicine, that we can do something to help because they have given us a lot. And even before the subcommittee, the cabinet-appointed subcommittee, started, or rather launched the drive on Tuesday, former graduates of Cuba started the drive before. So Dr. Malachi Dottin and other graduates of Cuba, they came together and said, okay, so Cuba needs our help now. And they would have went along and purchased some medical items and we're having them dropped off at Dr. Marishall's office. And that's another area where you can drop off some of the stuff. So what government has done is we can make a more impactful contribution. So there was a cabinet appointed committee led by Dr. Clarice Modeste, who's also a former Cuban graduate. Dr. Modeste being one of the earlier set of graduates out of Cuba. So that is led by her and Foreign Minister Peter David, together with Dr. Malachi Dottin and also Mr. Mitchell in Foreign Affairs as the focal point in ensuring that these items are collected, they can make donations, and that it gets to the people of Cuba. So some of the challenges that they face now in that of medicine, the needs, syringes, gowns, also the masks, the N95 masks. They're looking for medications, so painkillers and so. Some of the other stuff that's also needed is that of IV fluids. Grenada or Grenadians, we continue to benefit. There are a number of people that went to Cuba for medical interventions, came back, left the country either with unable to see, and they're back now and they can see fully, or especially in the area of some of our people in oncology or cancer patients and so, would have gone off to Cuba and came back doing well. Either the cancer in remission, the assistance that was given, lengthened, give them at least their family a couple more years to enjoy their presence before they departed. And now it is a call to action for us to assist a country that has given us so much, a lot. Whenever you can empower people through education, it means that the benefits are huge. Because can you really measure it? When a doctor, Grenadian student, goes to Cuba to study, you get a scholarship, you come back here and you contribute, not just to the people, your family, and the people that you meet at the hospitals, but let's think of what healthcare does for us. It safeguards who's there now. It helps in the ushering of new life into the world. But along with it, it also sets the tone for what tomorrow would be as to our health, how we can respond, our health system, how we as a people can benefit from this. It is huge. The health of a nation, it's always said, is the wealth of any nation. And if we don't have the doctors to add to this, or medical personnel, then where are we? So let us think about it this way. How important is health to everything else that we have? If we don't have health, then we will not be able to invest. We will not be able to smile. We will not be able to do all the plans, all the bucket lists that we create. If we don't have health, then we don't have nothing, because all we'll be doing is keep going to visit our doctors, and we'll be going down, because if you're not feeling good, how do you produce? So it hinges on so much more. So that is how we wanted to look at it. And as we do, we're encouraging the public to give generously. Give generously. The list is out there. At the drive, it was launched. What we are advising people to do is, in the case of the medicines and so the medication, that you don't purchase them and collect them over the counter. You go to the pharmacies and you pay for them. And you call NADMA on 440-8390, 440-8391, or 440-8392, and let us know who purchased, and we can collect, because we know what can happen. Errors can be made, and in medication, we can't afford to make errors. So you go to the pharmacies. We have other distributors, private distributors, who would procure these materials and would have them. So you can go on, you decide to get a box of gloves or whatever. You purchase, you let us know. Call us at the office, let us know, and we will do all that we need to do to ensure that we collect the items and then have them shipped off to Cuba. For the people living in Carriacou and PT Martinique, you're not left out of it. The fact that NADMA, we do have an office up on the Sister Isle. You can make contact either through the Ministry of Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs, or Ms. Bernice Date at the Carriacou office, where you will also be able to drop off your items there. And we will make all the necessary plans and arrangements to have it down to Grenada and to get it off to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because it's going to be a collaborative venture here. It's going to be one between NADMA using the coordinating mechanism or infrastructure that's available now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs ensuring that we work along with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our consulates and so out there in Cuba to ensure that it gets to Cuba. And in addition to that, the Ministry of Tourism to ensure that we have airlift to take it from Grenada to Cuba. And it is not just a Grenada effort. We have sent out letters to our CARICOM colleagues. And in addition to that, some also graduates from Cuba in the different islands. I can speak to St. Vincent, that was mentioned at the launch, former graduates of Cuba, that's also putting pulling themselves together and being able to access some of the resources so that you can collect and donate to a country that has given them so much to today. And we are encouraging the Grenadian public to do the same. Let us do what we can to help our brothers and sisters in Cuba now, because and we must add this very noble, very, 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 very noble, how should we call it, mandate of Cuba, and that is understood. Cuba may not have monies and so to give, but it does not matter how much crisis they are in. Blossom, Cuba have already dispatched a team of medical personnel to Haiti. That is not. You're talking selflessness here. We're talking care. We're talking a serious humanitarian ambassador, if that's what we can call Cuba. And that has always been the mantra of a country. If we want to replicate anything, we want somebody to look at as it relates to a real humanitarian, is that of Cuba. No matter their challenges, it never stops them in ensuring that they can assist others in their time of need, and ensuring that medical teams are dispatched in very short order to give care to people who need it in their time of need, even though they may not have for themselves. And I think that should be enough to propel us to want to assist a country like that, because we recognize it has nothing to do with them, but it's more to do with the greater cause of ensuring that human life is always, there's always a reason why we should assist. And on this note, I think, Blossom, there's nothing else to say as there is why we should not assist Cuba. Cuba is not a stranger, and it's not just a part of the region. We are a part of this whole network. Cuba has given a lot to us. There are many Cubans living here in Grenada, and there are many Grenadians who will safely call themselves Cuban Grenadians because of that time, that educational opportunity that was provided to them. I can safely say that I'm a direct beneficiary of what Cuba would have given in form of education, and I will encourage all to assist, donate as much as we can so that we can assist our brothers and sisters in Cuba.
While you may not have the list, do you have maybe some of the items, specifically the medicines that you're looking to get? Is it the normal, let's say, Advil, paracetamol kind of thing?
Yes, you have vitamins,
insulin?
You have the painkillers. Yes, the insulin, and so also antibiotics are some of the things that they're looking for. Hyperventive medications also. Once you go to the pharmacies, they have them, what we have is in groups, right? I'll send you that list. I'm not remembering that one very clearly, but I do remember some of them from it. The list, if I have to access it on my phone, then you would not see me. So what I would do is I would send it to you after so you can share. But yes, that's some of the things that we're looking at. The syringes, the needles, the gowns, the masks, the gloves, definitely the vitamins. I know for sure the antibiotics. So you go to the pharmacies and they will know what to, because what the committee has done was to send a list, to the pharmacies. So when people come to ask for it, they know what to give them. So if you say you come to purchase some antibiotics for Cuba, they would give you what they have in stock. That's already requested from the ministry's end, as to what Cuba really needs. Because you know some of these medical names, they are very long. Attempting to try to get into them, that is not our field. But what we do, we would guide you. So the guidance is already, information is already sent to the pharmacies. So you go in there to purchase, they would know exactly what to give you, what they would advise you to purchase, or rather pay for, and then we'll collect and ensure that it gets off to Cuba.
Is there a deadline or is there a lock-off?
We are hoping to see how much we can collect by next week. We are hoping that by next week, God's will, that we can actually send off a shipment to Cuba. There is not a deadline. There's not a deadline for now. We just need to see how much we collect. We are hoping that we know that we are a very giving people. Whenever it comes up, whenever these causes pop up, we usually answer the call, and overwhelmingly so. What the committee has also done was to make contact with private companies. So through the GICD, that we work through our private companies there. Also, so the past students, the past graduates of Cuba, you're also working through them, and just the general public in general. You might just be able to, and we don't want you to think that because you cannot buy 5 boxes of gloves or a whole maybe a whole box of masks, that your contribution is not important. No matter how small it is, we want you, please donate whatever it is you have. There is not a measure as to what can be donated and what cannot, or what is accepted and what would not be. We are accepting all. What we advise you to do, though, is that you, especially for the medicines, that you go to the pharmacy, you pay for them, let us know which pharmacy, the name and so, because that information the pharmacy will take from you so that we can collect when you do make that purchase. And the things like the gloves and so, yes, you can go into the pharmacy and pick them up. You can also drop them off. The things that you can drop off, you can drop them off either at our Richmond Hill office, Fort Frederick, or at the warehouse down at SSU camp. If you cannot make it to any of the locations, call us, please. Don't let collection or you being hampered by being able to get to our drop-off locations, let that be a reason why you don't donate. Call us at NADMA and we would make the arrangements to have them collected.
And speaking of a deadline or closing off, I know a few months ago NADMA spearheaded relief efforts for the residents of St. Vincent following the eruption of La Soufre volcano. When does that end? Is it still ongoing, I should ask, in relation to the relief efforts and supplies for St. Vincent?
So, yes, we have. St. Vincent, our first call for the year for assistance was from St. Vincent when La Soufre decided to, after years being dormant, just decide to show herself up. Our response was, we are one of the closest islands to St. Vincent, and we responded. The call was sent out, and before the call went out, Blossom, I would not forget that Sunday when we had that, we needed to get some water to St. Vincent, and a boat came down just to go back up, and we just needed to make use of it. That call went out, and we had even more than we could have taken up to St. Vincent, and the boat could have taken up to St. Vincent. That is what you call, again, again, Caribbean unity, strength in numbers, and we answering the call of our neighbors. So we did launch it. The support response was resounding. And we want to, before I even speak of closing, I want to say thank you. We at NADMA want to say thank you to our people in the diaspora, locally, that just responded to that call. It's as if we sit there, whenever we hear of something, we just sit there and we're waiting now to hear, when can we start donating? And it's great. It speaks to, to some, this don't exist, but I think in the Caribbean, we can safely say that it is well alive. It is well alive. We are still living as a community, and the community don't just exist in Grenada. We can tell that it exists in the region. And I think this is still something that we need to highlight, because to many, though we have the cultures from the bigger world coming in, we see that we are not allowing that to change who we are as a people, in ensuring that we always look out for our brothers and be our brother's keeper. So yes, we launched, we responded, we are grateful, we say thank you, but we are now concluding that relief effort for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are now in the process of sending off our final containers with some of the items that were dropped off, the last set of items that were dropped off, the people who did not have that opportunity to get it up through private boats and so on, dropped it off at the warehouse. We are ensuring that it all goes off to St. Vincent. So we are in the process now of the container at this stage, getting that materials rather, relief items to St. Vincent. And that would actually conclude the St. Vincent drive of relief items. I think we were all grateful when we heard that La Soufrière has gone back into a somewhat dormant stage, because she's not entirely. We did get some rain the other day and she did send up some plumes of ash, but it was not an eruption. It was not an eruption, and we want to make that very clear, because I remember I saw UE SRC putting that up. Yes, she's not dormant, but
she's
still
resting.
At the most stable. Yes, she is resting, and we are grateful for that resting phase. So the cleanup and everything else now continues in St. Vincent. We know that is going to be over an extended period, but the country is trying as much as it can to settle down. I mean, a lot was displaced. We have students only last week or so writing exams, and so everything had to be pushed back because of this hazard. But the departure of these items now that we're about to send out to St. Vincent will now conclude our relief operations for St. Vincent. And from NADMA, we want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who contributed. Without the support of the public, we could not have said now that we're concluding what can be considered another successful relief operation in ensuring that we assist our brothers and sisters in the region in their time of need.
On that note, Ms. Crosby, let's take a break and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. We are speaking with Public Relations Officer of NADMA, Oslyn Crosby. To the point, we'll be right back.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
It is important to know what your road signs and markings means. The zigzag lines means you should not park in the marked area. Parking is allowed inside the solid white lines on the edge of the road. Remember, look out for pedestrians. Pedestrians, be sure the vehicle comes to a complete stop before crossing. These tips can save your life. These tips can make our roads safer for all users. Be safe, be seen, be smart. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio. The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
There's no better way to start your day than with me on Good Morning Grenada. Covering everything you need to start your mornings off right. 6:35 a.m. on weekdays on all GBN platforms. Good Morning Grenada, adding a little blossom to your mornings.
Hey folks, you're invited to tune in to Grenada Music to the World program, hosted by Eugene Gittens on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9, Hot FM 98.5, 98.7, GBN TV, and all their social media platforms. The only totally local music program in Grenada, representing all...
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Public Relations Officer of the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, Ms. Oslyn Crosby. It's at this point in the program we are going to briefly take some questions from members of the public. Ms. Crosby needs to get to a meeting that I have pulled her away from. So let's see how we can tackle that in, let's say, about 10 minutes. So let's go to the first caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my dear ladies. That's what happened in Haiti. Now tell France now, give back Haiti back the money they robbed them for the past years gone by, the $1 billion. The money what France robbed them for all the years gone by was slavery. Tell them pay them back in interest right now in every country. France making enough money now for money. Pay them back the money. And tell White House in God with trust, the devils and them in White House, they don't went next to in White House what say them in God with trust. Have been back on Cuba for all the years. Tell them he's up in back on Cuba and we'll see which one is in Sky first. He's up Cuba embargo. It's time they do that, man. 50 years embargo. And they're saying God with trust. They might be devil people man. In White House, one in White House are the devils. Can we God with trust people? We have a country embargo for all that years. 50 years embargo. Come on, man. White people, European people, what is all you want?
All right. Thank you, caller. Response, Ms. Crosby?
Blossom, I think that would form part of the larger regional conversation in that of reparations. We know that there's a CARICOM mandate and committee that was assigned for this. In Grenada, we have the chairperson of that committee is Ali Gill, Attorney-at-Law Ali Gill, chairperson of the reparations committee. There's also a regional mandate on this. And as it relates to the embargo, we know that every year when the UN vote, that resolution goes to vote, that the Caribbean resoundingly votes for the end to the embargo in Cuba. And now with all that's happening, we have heard in the past couple of days, St. Vincent been calling for the end of the embargo. Antigua has added their voice. Grenada continues to do so. Trinidad always calling for the end of that embargo on Cuba, as it is affecting so much more. So the concern by the caller is already heralded on a CARICOM level, And we're doing what we can do as a bloc in ensuring that our voice, the voice of regional heads are there and countries as a bloc as it relates to championing the cause of these two countries. But in the meantime, as the policy aspect of everything happen, we continue to do what we can on the ground to make sure that we can assist in any way that we can.
A Facebook question: how can someone from outside of Grenada donate?
You can do one of two things. You can either, if you have someone here that you trust or so, to purchase, or you can purchase from your end and you ship in. Or one of the other areas that we also mentioned at the drive to on Tuesday was that of doing the financial contributions, where you can do it through that relief account that we normally activate whenever we have these cases. It was recently activated for St. Vincent. The information on that we will share just later on in this week, if not by today, by tomorrow, on that account at Cooperative Bank, where we encourage people to do their financial donations. The monies would go directly to the countries that you send it for. So it is a specific account for that cause. It is part of the response mechanism for countries in need, so that we can facilitate financial donations. So if you're not on island and you want to do that, you can do so through that means.
I know there are flights coming out of Cuba, but I understand that there are no flights going into Cuba. Is that hampering how NADMA is able to assist, or even other countries can assist Cuba getting the material and supplies that it needs?
No, it will not. It would not affect us, because remember, in our case, having to get materials to Cuba, it is a special case. So it's going to be a chartered. I know the Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Clarice Modeste, spoke to this on Tuesday when she said that as the Minister of Tourism, she already has been in conversation with Intercontinental, Inter-Caribbean rather, that airline, so that we can have that plane when we have the items in hand, so that we can make that arrangement to get the items delivered to Cuba. So the challenge of flights is not a challenge for us in getting the materials there, as special arrangements will be made, or rather discussions have already begun and special arrangements been made to get the items to Cuba that they need now.
All right, let me go back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I don't know if I missed anything here, but there are most of these drugs are not over-the-counter drugs. They have to be prescribed by a doctor. Let us say in the case of antibiotics, people cannot just buy antibiotics and use it like that. They have to be prescribed by a doctor. So what guarantee do you guys have that a person cannot just go to the pharmacy and purchase a number of bottles of antibiotics, and rather than send it to you in NADMA, use it for their own purposes? What guarantee do you have against that? I don't know if I missed something when you were talking initially. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crosby.
Thank you so much, caller, for that question. Yes, that's what we have asked for people to do in the case of the medicine, and that will cover the antibiotics or so, is that you go to the pharmacy and you would pay for it, but the people would not be, we don't want you to collect them. You would pay for it, so you go in and you would ask the family, you need to explain to the pharmacist that you're here to purchase, you're here to make a contribution to purchase some antibiotics, or pay rather for some antibiotics for the Cuba humanitarian drive. The pharmacists will know what are the antibiotics that you can purchase, because the committee that's assigned by cabinet have already forwarded information to the pharmacies, letting them know what are the antibiotics that Cuba needs. Right? So you would only pay for it. You will not be taking it from the pharmacist. You would pay for it. You would call NADMA after you've paid and let us know the name and the quantity, the amount that you have purchased, and we will arrange to collect. Because as we said, we don't want that cross-contamination of medicine, because people may just be able to you decide to take one thing and you thought that was the case. errors can happen, and we cannot afford that to happen in medicine because that is a life here at stake. So the person would not be going to the pharmacies to purchase and just taking the medication and dropping it off at NADMA. No, that is not what we want for the medicines. What we are asking you to do is go to the pharmacy, pay for it, call NADMA or Mr. Mitchell at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who's a focal point. Call NADMA on the numbers that I shared earlier, and you let us know, so the name of the person who purchased, your quantity, and we will arrange to collect to avoid that cross-contamination, or even people being able to abuse this opportunity of a humanitarian drive for their own personal, for whatever personal reasons. So that would not be happening. That would not be happening.
Somebody on Facebook is asking, what is the most important thing that is necessary or needed? Is it the medicine?
The medicine and the needles and the list that I will share with you, Blossom.
So none really takes priority?
None really takes priority. They are all needed. They are all needed. Needles, syringes, the gloves, the gowns, the antibiotics. So there's a short, all these items on island, and none takes at the top, and that's what we're asking. That's what the list was provided, so that you may not be able to buy a huge quantity of antibiotics, but you might just be able to buy a couple boxes of gloves, a couple boxes of gowns, or you can make a financial donation that will be able to go towards purchasing these items. So there's no top tier or below priority here for the items for Cuba medicine.
Okay, let's go to maybe the final caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I noticed that since after the earthquake in Haiti, most Grenadians are saying that Haitians have cussed. But I just want to tell Grenadians that I met Haitians already. I have friends with Haitians, and they're no different to Grenadians. So when your neighbor's house is on fire, they're all saying that you should wet yours. So I want them to desist from saying that. Haitians are really nice people. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, caller. Ms. Crosby, I see you nodding. You agree?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. And Blossom, that is one I know I heard we can tie history to it too. What's happening in Haiti has nothing to do with Haiti's people. For one, and let us go back. Almost every single year, Haiti is affected by a hurricane. Why? That's geographic. They're always in the path. A system leaves from the bottom and it's coming up. They're well within the path. Haiti and Cuba, almost every year, gets affected. As relates to earthquake, if we want to follow our geologists and so, the people who deal with that area, we recognize that Haiti is on a fault line. Years ago, 2011, when they had that huge earthquake, is there any way to say that these things or how people live or so would attract certain things to them? I don't think anybody wants to attract that to them. No one would want to attract these things to them. And these are the things that we have no control over. What we can do is better prepare ourselves for them. They will come. When will they come? Some of them we never know. What we can do though, what we can do though is ensure that we are prepared. And it's what we always encourage people to do in this disaster management process. Here in Grenada, we can be affected by an earthquake at any time. We feel those little tremors that we get from time to time. In 2018, that's 7.3, 6.9 by some. Initially, we were saying 7, but a 6.9 earthquake that rocked the place. I'm standing outside Blossom. I remember I was pregnant at the time, and I'm wondering what is happening. My concern then was it big enough and of a shallow depth enough to initiate a tsunami? Because remember, earthquakes can lead to so much more. Our infrastructure falling, you're trying to get to safety. But in addition to that, you may just have an additional hazard to move to in that of a tsunami, because we know that it is one of the catalysts for tsunamis. So let's think about it. What we want these experiences of our brothers and sisters in the region to do for us is heighten our level of awareness, our level of consciousness to the hazards that we have no control over, and the importance of starting the conversations at home with our children. Because remember, in earthquakes, your child can be at school, you at work, we are different places at different time, but at the end of the day, we all want to count everyone. We don't want to count bodies, we want to count lives. Yes, we want to be able to embrace our family members and say, yes, they are safe and feel comfortable. But we also have to be mindful of the reality of this. Speak to them, what it is that they should do, know what they should and shouldn't do. If there's an earthquake underneath your table, in the doorway, it is not about running outside, because we may run outside and run in danger. We know how children can be. Information that is shared in this preparedness and downtime is meant to create calm and also initiate the right response in the time of need. And so I want to support the caller here on that, on what he just shared, that it has nothing to do with who they are as a people. We are all one Caribbean people. If some of us, you put a Haitian, a Grenadian, a Vincentian, a St. Lucian, if we don't start speaking, you would not know who we are. We all look the same, right? So we are all one Caribbean people. We form part of this very interesting block of islands, somewhere that looks as dots, but we know that we are we're making impacts in the world. We were just on the world scene in the Olympics, and so we are contributing. So let us not be judges of people and whatever culture that we embrace or was handed down to us from our ancestors. But let us respect who we all are as people, and try to, what we do is prepare for the things that we have no control over, which are hazards. Be better prepared so that after it we can speak of the experience and that we will not be speaking about anyone. And when we can assist, that we do so to help, because at the end of the day, we all need to be our brother's keeper.
Well said. Final thoughts as we wrap up, Ms. Crosby?
I want to say thank you again to all, and I'm saying this in advance now, for the Cuba Drive who will be donating. And when we do come to you for Haiti, that we know that you will be giving also. We are always a very generous people. And for St. Vincent, we say thank you for that overwhelming support and contribution for that drive that we are now concluding. It's now concluded. We're getting the last set of items off to St. Vincent, but we know that we're at your doors now asking for help for Cuba. Remember, please do so. It is not a case where you go to the pharmacy and try to purchase the antibiotics. You pay for them, you call us with the information, and we will collect. Because remember, this is life here. So we have to put all the necessary blocks, safety measures in place to ensure that what we send off to Cuba, that it is what can be used and will help save lives. And remember, it's not just Cuban lives we're talking about here. We have Grenadian students studying in Cuba. If we just happen to go into crisis, it means that it is a cause for concern for us. We have Grenadians who are getting medical interventions in Cuba. So let us think, this is all a part. Everybody in Cuba is a part of us. Cuba has been here for us for decades, always around 42 years of mutual relations, never ever say no yet in times of need. Let us do what we can now to assist Cuba. And when we do come to you with that needs list for Haiti, we know that you will be responding generously, as we usually do. So Blossom, again, thank you so much for the opportunity. To all our listeners, to the Grenadian public, we encourage you to be vigilant. We are still within the hurricane season, and we don't want you to forget this. We are within the hurricane season. We are about to enter what is traditionally known as the most active month in the season, September. It is when it all happens. So don't be complacent, be mindful of it, be prepared, have the conversation. By now, I'm sure we all have our emergency packs. Everybody knows what the plan is, what you should be doing, who has to ensure that the water is filled, ensure that the shutters are up, ensure that the emergency bin where you put your supplies are ready. Let us ensure that with all that's happening, and I want to add this here, with all that's happening in all the other countries, St. Vincent only had the volcano earlier on this year. Haiti now has the earthquake. We are still living within COVID. Cuba is in trouble. What does this tell us? They say when your neighbor's house is on fire, you need to wet ours, wet yours. Let us be prepared. Let us be better prepared, because we're seeing here, remember, this will not be a case of Ivan, when it was just us affected by a hurricane, right? And we got assistance from the world. We were very, very grateful for the assistance given. Right now, it means, therefore, that you would have to now spread $1 will now need to be, is a percentage we'll be able to get, whereas in the past, we got the entire dollar. It would not be this way now. Remember, the world is not the same. It is different. It's much different now. COVID and everything else that's happening in other islands. Let us be mindful of this. And as I conclude, please, let's adhere to the protocols. COVID is outside. We have active cases on island. We have the possibility of clusters. It means, therefore, that complacency is not even, it should not even be a thought at this stage. Rather, that we do what we need to do to be safe. It all forms part of the disaster management process, Blossom. As I speak to all of it, it makes me become very, very concerned, because it is not the case where we're dealing with only the hurricane season. We're dealing with so much more responding. And in some cases, you don't know if you may just have to actually directly respond on island because the season has only just begun.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crosby. Appreciate it. Somebody on the WhatsApp just wanted to clarify, only the medicine that we should leave there if we purchase things like gloves or
the gloves and so you can drop off. Can drop off the gloves and so. But the medicine, all medicines, we leave it at the pharmacy and you just call us with the information and we will collect.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll let you get back to your meeting. Appreciate you running away to spare us.
Thanks, and same to you, Blossom.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Public Relations Officer of the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, Oslyn Crosby. We thank her so much. Leaving a meeting as the planned guest that we had in place was unable to make it, so she is filling in. She has filled in, and we appreciate her sparing some time with us this morning. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Always appreciate your listenership and your viewership. Enjoy the rest of your thankful Thursday. Continue to be safe. COVID-19 protocols are in place, so continue to do what you need to protect yourselves and the lives of your loved ones. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye. I'm not sure who's next with Mid-Morning Buzz. I haven't seen Joseph's head as yet, but stay tuned to Classic and GBN.